It's making it possible for developers to write the business logic without worrying about, oh, how do I buy enough machines to run my code on? And oh, has the data center in Singapore been fully provisioned yet with the machines that my application needs? No, you should separate these concerns, right? There's a collection of cloud services, Hadoop, Sherpa, Mobstore, which are owned and operated by the cloud team at Yahoo, right? And they take care of provisioning the data centers with the necessary machines, of running these services. And the people who are developers of applications like Flickr, Mail, Pulse, the Wretch, various services, they can call these cloud services, and what they get in return is scalability and the day-to-day operations, dealing with failures, all of this, right? When you think about a cloud strategy, Hadoop is a very big part of it, and you've heard a great deal about Hadoop. It's widely established in the open source community, right? But it is one part of an overall strategy that Yahoo is developing. What does Hadoop do for you? When you have very large data sets, which you need to analyze and store and make sense out of, right? Hadoop does that for you. But there are other things. For example, let's say you want to build a property like Flickr, where someone wants to store photos. When you, Alan, store a photo, the system has to immediately come back to you and say, okay, and be ready for your next action, right? And the photo that you saved cannot be lost. So it has to be saved in real time, and you have to do this scalably across literally hundreds of millions of users worldwide. That's not Hadoop. That's a system called Sherpa, right? And you may have heard of NoSQL systems or key value stores. Sherpa is an example of that class of cloud system. And it's one developed by Yahoo, and it's the only one in the world today that's geo-replicated. What do I mean by that? If you were to save your photo here in Hong Kong, it would be stored to a server in the nearest data center, which is probably Singapore for you. But within seconds, that same image will also be saved in some other data center, perhaps Sunnyvale. So if there's ever a problem, your data is still secure, right? What if you wanted to deliver video? Storing and delivering video is a challenge of its own. You have to manage the bandwidth. You have to have caches that are close to the user, right? These are other kinds of cloud systems that also come into the picture, right? Let's say you have a piece of application code that needs to run in response to a user's request. As you have hundreds of millions of users asking for that, you need many machines to run them on, right? Being able to do this on demand, that's a cloud service. Right? So the point I'm trying to make here is, if your goal, like Yahoo, is to provide a fabric where developers of user-facing properties can quickly innovate, then it's not enough to have one piece of the puzzle. You need to have all the pieces, because otherwise they're still going to have to do things the old-fashioned way, right? And what do I mean by the old-fashioned way? You buy the hardware, you buy the software, you hire someone to install the hardware, install the software, and then after a year, you're ready to write the first line of your actual application logic, right? In contrast, we want to have a whole suite of services available for you to rent, right? So you come in and you get instantaneously access to all the different services you need to build a comprehensive, world-class, global, scalable application. And you can start writing the part of your logic that defines your application right away. And all the bread and butter building services, the underlying foundational services, they exist. The underlying hardware is globally provisioned. It's all ready to go. And you don't get billed for all of it. You get billed only for what you use, right? So you get billed for the number of rooms you rent, for how long you rent them. And you don't, the hotel is already there. You don't have to start building it. to come in and do something. Right? That's our strategy. I think it goes beyond just companies. I think every organization, a company, governments, universities, schools, individuals, right? The way we use computing has changed forever. We are all going to be renters. The only thing that will vary who you rent from and what you rent. Right? For the last 50 years, we have been buyers. Right? We pay for software we don't use, hardware we don't use, and we spend a lot of time getting it to the point where we try to use it. Right? When you think about what's going on, if you take companies like Yahoo, what are you renting from them? End user services, mail. Right? I can remember when the university where I teach or taught used to have its own mail center. Now universities are increasingly outsourcing this, outsourcing it in the cloud sense, right? They use someone else's mail service institutionally. Of course, we as individuals use Yahoo Mail. We have been doing this for a long time. You look at services like Amazon. These are lower level services that a developer rents in order to build a higher level service which they sell in turn or expose to consumers. Look at courses that are taught in universities. You no longer set up a lab by buying machines and putting them in a room. You go rent infrastructure on a cloud service provider and you give students homework on this. Right? This is here to stay. However, the software underneath, it's in the very early stages of really being tailored to this kind of renting. Right? I think there's a very exciting time ahead of us in figuring out how to really build software that is designed to be rented.